Hello and welcome to EduCurious. Today's guest is Dr. Lee Bush. He is a longtime educator and has retired, but then come back into the educational world and taken on several amazing superintendent positions throughout the country. We've got so many questions for him. I can't wait to pick his brain. So welcome, Dr. Bush.
Thank you very much. It is really nice to be here.
So I want to get started with you've had all kinds of jobs within education. What was your very favorite job?
In 2006, I was working in Wisconsin. I was hired to open up an elementary school for the city of Cape Coral charter school system. So we moved in April to Cape Coral, and I had 4 months. And in that 4 months' time, we recruited 50 staff members and 500 students and opened up Christa McAuliffe Charter Elementary School for the city of Cape Coral. And it was an amazing year. The staff was unbelievable, the hard work that they put in. And we ended up getting an A rating. And the school is still going strong. The system over there is going strong. And I feel really great about that. It was just the energy that people put out, the staff, it was incredible. Trying to find teachers, they came. We went to the Lee County Recruiting Fair, and we had our table kind of in the back because they wanted the Lee County schools people to go through and see the. So we were in the back. What I did was during registration, the long lines of people waiting, I worked the lines and I just looked for teachers that seemed to be animated, having a great time talking, curious. And I gave them my little card and I said, "Hey, we're in the back and we need teachers. And what grade level would you like to teach?" Because I had nobody at any grade level. And so they would tell me, I said, "Yeah, we could do that. Why don't you come on by and we'll talk." And we had contracts right there for them too. So it was just an amazing year with a bunch of amazing people. I hired one of the best secretaries anybody could ever had, Catherine Hoggs Perez, and she was my right arm. Jackie Collins, who's now the superintendent, it's been superintendent for 10 years. She was kind of my assistant principal. She did everything for us. So great people and a wonderful year. And I still have a lot of friends from that school system.
Starting a new school is no small feat, and you're able to pick out some really great educators. But how do you lead those educators once you get them on board?
I am all about relationships. I see myself as a very kind, loving person. I love people. It's why I initially got into education. I found out that I could really help students. I make connections. And, yeah, I'm a listener. I just find that through relationships and making positive relationships, you can take those connections and it kind of gives you a credibility over time. You keep, if you're competent, you keep making good decisions. People see follow through. So that's really, to me, what leadership is. It's bringing out the best in people. It's treating people with respect, treating people professionally, giving them voice. A lot of teachers leave professions all over the country, not because working conditions or pay, but because they just don't feel like they have any voice in their own lifestyle as an educator. So that's kind of who I am. I care. I care about people and making sure that everybody does well.
How do you develop teacher leaders on your campus or in your district?
After doing this for a while, I was a principal for 15 years and superintendent for 13 and a teacher for 12. So I can see what's going on within my staffs. The cream rises to the top in a way. It's what people are doing. It's what's the time that they're spending. It's the energy they put out. It's the love they give. It's the extra efforts that they have. It's advanced studies and PD that they might be doing and undertaking to advance their own careers. And really, success is when leadership is not for the leader, it's for who you are leading. So you figure out who people are. And a lot of my elementary schools, we had 5, 6 teachers at a grade level. I had some big elementary schools. And you'd have team leaders, and I would rotate team leaders that give people a chance. But you could see who the ones that might be cut out for a higher principal, assistant principal, dean type of job. And part of my life, a big part of my life, was from Immokalee, Florida, which is inland from Naples. And I taught there. And my mentor was Mrs. Jelks, the principal. And one day she came to me, she said, "Young, you need to be a principal." I said, "Oh, wait, no way." But Mrs. Jelks was mentoring me and providing me that impetus. And I did go on, got my education because Mrs. Jelks said I should be doing Mrs. Jelks said. So I think I've tried to do that with staff too. I have students that I've taught who have become teachers. I have teachers who become principal, and just recently a principal that I mentored in New Albany, Wisconsin, has become a superintendent. So you kind of pass it on.
You mentioned mentorship as being something that really impacted you. How do you facilitate that on your campus?
You pick out who you think might be someone on that path, and then you facilitate it. You don't necessarily tell them what to do, but you can put little markers on the path. You can do little hints, drop some seeds. Hey, I think you really should go to that training because you'd be good. I had a counselor in Osseo Fairchild School District who was interested in a program called Discipline with Dignity from Jim and Charles Faith. So I signed her to Las Vegas for a program. She came back and she's just, instilled a great deal of wonderful things at that district. You find out what makes people tick, and then you give them that goal to shoot for. And I've just been very fortunate in my life to be surrounded with great people in my career to be able to do that with.
You just mentioned professional development. How often do you like to infuse that within a mentorship or within staff training? And what levels do you use professional development to enhance leadership or quality teachers?
Well, learning doesn't just stop after you get that little piece of paper that says, "Well, I can be a teacher now, or I can be a principal now." It doesn't stop. It never stops. We're just trying to learn and walk our way home, as one person that I admire said. So you give people what they need. I mean, if you have new teachers, you obviously have to do a mentoring program and professional development because they may get some wonderful teacher education in colleges. We have great people doing that, and they're supervisors. But they're in the classroom, but the administrator needs to walk through a lot, let them know that in a, see, that's where I believe establishing those relationships comes in handy because you already have established this emotional support bank. So I can go in there and I can say, look, I'm just here to help you out. And I can look and I can see what they're doing and what they might need. Or I can have other teachers that are veteran teachers on that team go in there, help this person out. What do you need? Again, go to these trainings, whether it's restorative practices, if you're into that, but it never ends. It never stops. Their curriculums change all the time. I'm old enough to have seen so many curriculum changes, the ebb and flow of it. Now we have science of reading, which is basically introducing phonics again, which is what I learned when I was 19, a young child. So you keep up with what the latest trends are because there's knowledge out there that continues to emerge how children learn, and you try to focus on that.
So you just mentioned that you're a lifelong learner. What are you learning about right now in education? What are you most excited about right now at this point in time?
I just reread a book that I saw a lady a long time ago at an ASCD conference, Lorraine Monroe. She was on 60 Minutes probably 20 years ago. She started the Harlem Academy and basically just retooled this school. So I was thinking again about the lessons that she had throughout the book. And I want to make sure I get this right. So I have the book right here, and it says she set forth a leadership creed where the leader needs to indicate daily by word and deed that our work is about transforming children's lives, that the work takes whatever it takes, that no one way is the way. The way is any way that works, and the more ways, the more effective you are. So just kind of a stimulating thing for me again, but she was a wonderful educator, turned life around for so many kids up in Harlem. I try to keep abreast of what's going on in education. Before I came down back to Florida, the science of reading came in and was established in the state of Wisconsin and now in the state of Florida. So we went to leadership conferences where that was talked about, and we picked, curriculums having to do with that and trainings that having to do with that. So there's always something to learn about when you're an educator, when you're in leadership. You need to stay up. I mean, being an instructional leader means you really have to keep on top of what is being instructed and who's doing the instruction.
You said there's been lots of change over time, but it almost spirals back and it's repurposing or retooling particular concepts or lessons or pedagogies that have been tried and true. What's your take on curriculum purchased, teacher made, or combination of everything? Like the author you just stated, there's no one way. What do you think about all that?
Well, the goal of a teacher is to get through to every kid in their class. And teachers are really good at doing that. I mean, teachers are amazing people. I've been blessed to be around so many great, incredible teachers. And the incredible ones are the ones that don't take no for an answer. They set high expectations. So there's a base curriculum. There may be, like, for a child that's reading a basal, we used to have basal readers. And they still have curriculum where the questions are there for the teacher. Here's how you expound on this particular lesson. Here's the enhancements that you can do for your lesson if you have time. Curriculum changes over time. Curriculum must align with the state standards. If you're going to have tests that actually are meaningful and are indicative of what a school system is really doing. Sometimes a school system get high grades on tests, but they're not doing the character education. They're not doing the citizenship. They're not doing the service learning. They're not doing the arts. They're not. Just because the score comes up there doesn't necessarily mean that the morale and the environment at school is so positive. So good balanced whole child approach is good. So the curriculum has to really align with standards and has to be fluid. There are some places where you have a prescriptive lessons that teachers must do according to what the curriculum says. You have to follow this. On this week, you must be doing this lesson. That's not me at all. That's not where I believe teaching should be at. We have to empower the teachers to a lot of decisions of curriculum are what they make in the classroom, with, of course, accountability and monitoring.
How do you prepare your teachers to really understand what the end goal is? Because measurable results, student achievement, all of that goes into making the school grade, and the school grade is really what the public sees. It's not the interface. Like, that is what you're presenting to all the parents. So how do you prepare your teachers to be highly effective when they're trying to follow the state testing?
There's so many variables. I may get a class. Okay, so let's say I'm an elementary principal again, and I have, at the end of the year, I want to make up the class list for each of the 5 teachers that are at the next grade level. So there's all kinds of variables and dynamics to that whole process. I tell teachers when testing is coming and kids, they get a note home to the parents. This is not the end of the world. We want your kids to do good. Please prepare them by having a good night's sleep and healthy breakfast and all that. Same with, teachers, relax. Just do what you do. Teach what you're teaching. They have an internal conscience, all of them. It's like Jiminy Cricket. They know how well things are going. They get feedback all the time from local assessments. And basically, the testing is reading, writing, and arithmetic, right? That's the state test. Social studies, science, those things, oh yeah, we should do that. I would say that there needs to be a more equal balance because we can see the effects of maybe less emphasis on science and history out there now. A lot of people just they don't know how important that really is. I want to go back to Mrs. Judson and Immokalee. Immokalee was always, you had the wealthiest schools on the coast of Naples, and you had Immokalee. Immokalee always got low grades. And Miss Juck said, no, don't worry about that. What you do is at the beginning of the year, you find out where they're at. And then you look at the gain scores throughout the year, and then you assess them at the end. So you can see how much of effect you really had on these kids.
Do you have any revolutionary ideas for helping give teachers back time, more effective planning, learning communities? There's all kinds of literature on that. But what is your take on empowering teachers with the gift of time?
Well, yeah, there's all kinds of what's an effective school, Larry Lazat and his research, and it was time on task, less interruptions, and planning time. And so early dismissals, I know many schools have early dismissals, so they give teachers a chance for professional development, but that's usually not planning time. That's you're learning something new that has to be done, like you're changing over to curriculum. So what do you do with planning time? I try in an elementary school, you need try to do common planning time so the team has off all at one time. One class may go to PE, one class go to library, one class go to art, one class go to music. The team has that 45-minute block of time. Before school, after school never works. After school people have lives to do. So, but less meetings. If we can do it by email, we'll do it by email. So, less meetings. And you know what? I have given people one little perk is here, I'll come in and sub for you for an hour, give you some more time if you need it. So if there were needs that existed, I'd go in and take class for an hour. A good chance for me to get to know the kids but it's only so much you can do in a school day to give people that time.
I want to talk about your educational career journey. I want to hear the parts that come to life about like those big moments in your life that made you who you are today.
I've gone to many places. I've been so blessed. So, okay, I left school. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I spent years taking classes, history and other liberal arts classes at the University of Illinois. Went to Chicago and I worked at Illinois Psychiatric Institute on the floor with suicidal and depressed teenagers. Then I moved to Wisconsin, I was living on a farm raising sheep, baling hay. And I had a job from 4 to 10 at a residential treatment facility in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin for delinquent and emotionally handicapped teenagers, many of them who came from the Milwaukee or Racine area. So I did that. I worked with adult and mentally handicapped for a year as their aide. After I did that, it gave me, I had never really felt a calling or what I wanted to do. I did feel then that I knew that I wanted to do something in education. So went back to school, got my degree in elementary and special education. I moved to Naples, 14 years in that system as a teacher and a principal for 8 years. And during that time, I was able to commute to Fort Myers. University of South Florida had a campus there. Got my master's in educational leadership and then a doctorate with a cohort group from the University of Miami in Coral Gables. Then I moved back to Wisconsin, small district, K-12, 400 kids. You might drink the milk, organic valleys from Lafarge, Wisconsin. So with Cindy Campbell, my executive assistant's help, we learned it all. We did it. So after that, there was more jobs in as an elementary principal. I moved back to that Cape Coral position where I founded the elementary school, but then became the superintendent for 4 years of that system. Catherine Perez was my wonderful assistant. And and then I retired 2013, took our big motorhome out west. We were camp hosts at the Napa Valley State Park for a few months. I had a son who lived out there, came back, got a call, went to Wisconsin, up in the upper part of Wisconsin. Superintendent left in the middle of the year. Are you interested? And okay, so we did that for 6 months. Then, again, it's been back and forth, but I kept doing the interim. Stevens Point, 7,500 students, 12 schools, fantastic people there. So I guess for me, I just have been, again, blessed with wonderful Amber Curvo at New Auburn secretary, the ladies in Bloomer that I just had, school district there. It's people that make organizations. People and schools are spiritual organizations. They truly are. There was a man named Frosty Troy who was editor of the Oklahoma newspaper, and he talked about this. He talked about what happens in schools. You feed the hungry. That might be their only meal, breakfast and lunch. You clothe them. Every school has extra clothes, whether they have school uniforms or not. They have extra clothes for kids. The love that comes from accepting all students, all special ed students and needs. No greater love.
How has your experience with mental health and those challenges that encompass that translated into how you're able to really help the whole child?
I had moved to Chicago with a couple of friends. They had a band going. I had a little Volkswagen bus, so I carried their equipment around. But I needed a job. There was an opening there and that, and we wanted to get back to that area. So I taught special ed there. I taught during summer schools in Naples. I taught mentally handicapped, cognitively disabled children for a couple of summers in summer school. So it gives you a different sensitivity to kids and their needs. I think it's made a difference in my life to who I am.
Tell me your involvement with music. I see a guitar behind you, and you just exude that part of creativity. What's going on with all that?
Actually, I think it started in middle school. I was part of a youth group, and I picked up a guitar, Goya 6-string guitar, and learned songs. At that time, it was like Kingston Trio and Brothers Four. I won't date myself, but I might as well. Look, I got nothing left. I learned those songs, and I would sing at youth group stuff. I know I'm on a long, long journey. Sing hallelujah. Those camp songs. High school, I had a band. I played bass. Learned how to play bass in high school. So we did Beach Boys songs and Beatles covers and all that. And then college, I had a fraternity band, still playing bass, and we had a lot of fun doing fraternity and sorority dances. And then after that, when I moved from Chicago to Wisconsin, we started a band. We called it Sky Farmer, and we played dance songs. I mean, we played in bars and clubs in Wisconsin, and so to be successful, you got to play up tempo dance songs. So whether they were country or rock covers or whatever, we played, and we supported ourselves for 3 years. We got pretty good. We played for a rock musical at the Goodman Theater, which is attached to the Art Institute in downtown Chicago. We played 6 weeks one winter. Bobby Lapone, brother of Patti Lapone, the actress, was the star, and Charles Seifert, who used to be on Trapper John M.D., he was the other star. So we were on a stage, on a scaffold, right behind the stage, and all the action took place. We did all the music for that. So yeah, and so I've continued to play with kids in choirs. I teach songs. I just happen to have a poster here that I will hold up. So we had Peter Yarrow at Cape Coral talk about tolerance and anti-bullying one evening, and I taught the middle school choir how to sing "Blowing in the Wind" and "Don't Laugh at Me" for that. But I've always done "God Bless the USA" at Veterans Day shows that I put on at all my schools because I think it's important to honor the veterans, and that's what I've done with music. I still play. I've got a couple of guitars, and I fiddle around.
Let's dive a little bit deeper on the anti-bullying passion that you alluded to. Give me your take on it. How do we combat that within our schools, within our country, within our family dynamics, and within our workplace?
Be kind. Learn tolerance and acceptance and diversity. Accept diversity and inclusion. Saying those words, I'm saying diverse. Accept it. Embrace it. We live in such a wonderful country. Different people that have brought so many wonderful things. Teach kids early. They don't have any background in the bigotry and the. So when I was an elementary principal, well, as a teacher too, I always had units that I taught on bullying and what you can do about it. But as a principal, I would teach a song to third graders. Maybe I did it fourth grade too. And the tools of being able to, use if you feel like you're bullied. If you see somebody bullied, stand, what do you do? But yourself, use your voice. Tell an adult if it's a serious thing, if it comes to physical. Share your feelings with each other and protecting each other. There's always something happening in the person who's doing the bullying's life to make them that way, Teachers need to figure out what that is. What has happened? There's trauma. They feel like they're bitter. They're angry about something, and so try to solve that end of it. What are they angry about? Where they have to lash out? They need control because bullying is all about control. Cut off the heads of others and make yourself feel better at that thing. So that's what I tried to do. Counselors that I've worked with, wonderful counselors like Heidi Steyer-Weir at Osseo Fairchild School District, and they have bullying units all the time. They're constantly dealing with it. Schools are addressing it. A lot of times there's claims that, well, the school didn't. There's instances where it could have obviously been addressed better. But I believe that schools do their utmost to take care of all of their children and try to address things properly. A lot of times, and I will say this out loud, there are parents that don't support what the school is trying to do with bullying. My kid didn't do that. My kid, cameras on school buses are wonderful inventions. Yes, here, see, look what happened. Your kid did the bullying right there, out loud, live. So, we need more parents to have the respect for schools and teachers the way it used to be. Parents come in for parent conferences. I mean, the teacher right away at the beginning of the year, new teachers reach out to, here they are at open house, all the parents, everybody's dressed up nice and a kid, you have the opportunity right then, first conversation, eye contact, and say, I'm very happy to have your child with me in this classroom. I promise you I will take care of all the children here. And I need to have your support. I will be letting you things that are going on. I'll send home positive things that are happening. At the first indication of any issues, I'm going to talk to you about that so that we can work together. Do you see this at home happening as well? How come? So that outreach to parents, Facebook things, postings. A teacher may have their own webpage. I encourage people to do that. Have their own, where people they can see what's going on in the classroom. Come volunteer sometimes if you have time. So just do what you can to engage the parent in positive ways. Then, when it comes time to tell the parent, little Jimmy, hit the kid at recess today, tried to find out what it was, and she was up. So the conversations go a little bit easier after you establish a positive relationship. It's Nelson Mandela. Treat everyone you meet like they were your long lost friend. Think about that. How you meet your long lost friend. It's like, hello, nice to see you. So yeah, new teachers, give them all the love you can right away. That's your big chance to let them feel welcome. Parents don't feel welcome at schools a lot. And people that have bad histories at schools themselves feel even less welcome. So school districts need to make the office, a nice welcoming area. The secretaries, the receptionists out there, God bless all of them. Thank you, Marisol Rivera, for Chris McCall. But they need to make everybody feel welcome in their office too.
Do you feel like we could do a better job getting parents back in the classrooms or parents on campus volunteering with our school districts?
Yes, parents need to be in schools. Now, let me say this about volunteering in their own child's classroom. That was limited. That was a limited thing for a special occasion. If they're having a birthday party or if they're on a field trip, you want to come along. But just to hang out in your child's classroom and see what's going on all the time, no, that's too distracting for the teacher and the child. But yeah, volunteering is great. More the merrier. Background checks, of course.
So, in your experience, how have you connected with your community, the school and the community coming together to create positive student results?
Okay, so every opportunity there are to be with the community is a good chance to make sure that everything is going well with those people. Ask about their lives. Football games, basketball games, theater events, musical events, whatever it might be, 8th grade graduation, 4K graduation, open houses, car line. Let me tell you about car line at Kristen McCall Charter Elementary. These cars would line up around blocks and blocks and blocks, and I was the one with a little microphone in my hand, a little walkie-talkie, and they had their names. After a while, I didn't need it, but they had it in the windshield, and I'd say, "Okay, Mr. Jakishvili is here. You have the Kishvili kit," and then they would line up on the ramp, and their cars would come. So, but that was a great way for me to get to know parents, because I could say, "Well, guess what happened in class today? Guess what I heard?" And even before the kid got in the car, it was, "Oh, really? Thanks for telling me." There's a million different ways of dealing with public and inviting public and the community, getting to know the community. Take part in civic organizations. I was part of the Collier County Juvenile Justice Council in Naples. I was board of director of Boys and Girls Club in Stevens Point. So yeah, just everybody's out there. Always engage people when you see them in the office. Don't just walk by. "Hello, how's it going? You need to talk? Oh, let me know if you need anything. I've got coffee."
So, if you met a young person who's thinking about going into education, right, about to go into college, what advice do you have them to give them that little push to say, this really is a great career vocation?
I'd say go in it for the money. No. uh, I would say, how big is your heart? I mean, do you love kids? Do you feel like you have a love for kids? Because if you don't love children, don't go into education. Education is like you say, well, people go to college and get degrees, and then if they can't, they become a teacher. That whole awful stereotype from long ago. I will say, uh, do you want to make a difference in your life? Not just producing a product or selling something, but actually make a difference and a legacy. Do you want to create a legacy for yourself? I have a motto that's on my resume: children are the living messages that we will send through our work into a time that we will never see. And that's really it. It's like, it's not just now, but it's forever. You could change. There's always these wonderful stories all the time, changing lives forever, hitting connecting with a kid who they might just need that one person, that one day, to be with them, to believe in them. And that's what teaching's all about. Be that one person. But you can be that one person every day. You have 22 little kids clamoring for a hug. What's better than that? There's just nothing better than that, at least in my mind.
Looking back on your career in its entirety, what have been some of your very biggest challenges that you have overcome, learned from, and moved forward with?
When I got to Immokalee, the big challenge I had, Mrs. Jelks gave me a class of 3rd graders that I had 6 weeks to get them into 4th grade. They were behind. They were migrant students. And so we worked real hard. We got them past these skills tests so they could become like 4th graders. So that was a very challenging, the whole environment. But they're just wonderful, wonderful kids and parents. They would bring me a watermelon when it was picking time or tomatoes. They would do it. They supported you. You give a kid a little sticker to Immokalee, and it meant the world. You give them something at a wealthy school. It's like, "Oh, thanks." Anyway, that was a good challenge. I loved being out there with Mrs. Jokes and Mary Jane Wilson, my 4th grade team leader. So when I became a superintendent, I was in a small district in Wisconsin, Lafarge, and in Lafarge, they had like a little cottage industry. They had group homes and foster care homes, and they took kids from social services, placed them from other counties in the state, and but they didn't really financially. These were cognitively disabled students, most of them, or severely emotionally, behaviorally disordered, we'll call it that. And they needed extra teachers and extra aides. And so the district had to provide for that, and the tax base wasn't getting enough money from those group homes or social services. The money didn't really follow that. So I spent some time lobbying the governor, Scott McCallum in Wisconsin, and his aide, and it ended up that the district got a tuition reimbursement, that's the way they called it, of several $100,000 recurring every year to offset the cost of these students. So that I felt good about that. Let's see. When I got to Stevens Point, Wisconsin, I had read in a newspaper article as I was interviewing for that, the last said, why anybody would want to come here as a superintendent is beyond me. Because that school board was in turmoil. They were like suing each other. There was all kinds of stuff going on. There'd be yelling, could be heard outside, So I was very fortunate because there were some really, even the ones that were supposedly the thorns, we worked together. I had them adopt you can't really see that, administrative team operating principles, but there's some things on there, integrity, leadership, teamwork, open communication, caring, loyalty, celebration. And they laminate those, put them right by their places. And they still have them there. And they ended up having just a wonderful year with that. So that was a good challenge. In Brookings Harbor, Oregon, the principal had been forced to resign. There was a real disconnect between the administration and the teaching staff, the union. So I right away established meetings with them, listened, let them have, and worked on things that they were issues, and it kind of flipped the morale very quickly. So I think part of who I am is to come into a district and I have this kind of calm demeanor, and we have a treat with the board, and we figure out what's going on. We set some goals and we work on them, and so it turned around very nicely in Brookings Harbor. I never set out to be like this, but I'm kind of a policy guy right now. That's always part of the job of a superintendent is the boards, is policies, because you have to have policies. You have to have a framework. And so in Brookings, they hadn't revised their policy books. I met with a guy. He had been coming to board meetings every month, like Gordon, and he would always have something to say. And he was one of those guys like, okay, Gordon. But I asked, because he knew a lot about the policy, I asked Gordon and the board chair. We spent the rest of the year, every afternoon on a Thursday for a couple hours, redoing their policy book. So I felt very good about that. Winter, Wisconsin, we worked with the local food pantry, provided food for the kids to take home in a backpack program. That was a good thing. Yeah, I think things have been, I've had some really great people to support. Amber Curvo at New Auburn, a secretary there, just wonderful. My office there was right in the elementary reception area. So I would help taping boo-boos and just all the little things that happen in elementary office. So, and I've had successes with kids. I have a young lady I taught at Naples Park Elementary in 1988 in fourth grade. She's now the principal, started a school in Cape Coral called Thrive Academy for autistic teenagers, Lisa Cannon. And I could tell when she was in fourth grade that she was destined to be, great things. So we hired her at the City of Cape Coral Charter School as a high school social studies teacher. So I kind of reunited with her when that happened. And then now she's gone on to this wonderful thing. So those are things that when I lay my head down at night and I think about what's happened, I've been so blessed.
If you could name just one biggest accomplishment, but is there one biggest accomplishment that really just made your heart swell up with pride?
I was hired by Dave Palashik, who mentored me in Wisconsin. After I was a special ed teacher for a couple of years, I got a job. Dave gave me a job. My hair was down to here. I was a fifth grade teacher. My first class was 32 kids. We had a wonderful year together. And I told them that if they wanted to raise some money, I'd take them in Chicago for 3 days. Because besides teaching, I drove a bus route for the Wazeeka Steuben School District. I lived outside of Steuben, so I got my bus in Steuben, run the ridges and valleys down to Wazeeka, and taught fifth grade. But I learned to drive a bus because that band I was telling you about, Sky Farmer, we had a bus and I was the driver. So I learned how to drive. I could drive in Chicago. I took them to Chicago. We had a wonderful 3 days. Went to all the museums, went to a Cubs game. They never forgot that. And 7 years later, when they graduated, they asked me to speak at their commencement. So That was maybe one of the greatest things. Thanks to all of them. Several of them are teachers right now.
I did want to ask you about your bus driving experience. You did that within the band, within driving kids different places. I feel like personally, the school bus drivers are the hardest job in all education and probably one of the most thankless jobs in education. Do you have anything insightful to say about that part of our system?
The kids come on the bus and you really have an opportunity to get to know them, for one thing. And then is how you treat them. People say, "Oh, I'd never drive a bus to kids." No, it's how you treat them. And so you keep things under control on the bus. You have a couple rules. You keep your voices down and nobody hurts anybody else, and that's it. And then we'll have a good time. I usually, at many of my jobs, at the beginning of the year, I'll go out and ride the routes just to see where these drivers are going. So I'll ride the route. When I went to Lafarge, Wisconsin, my first superintendent job, I had already driven a bus before, and I got my license again and drove during times when there were shortages. We needed somebody to run an extracurricular route. Boys basketball was going over to DeSoto, and I would take their route while the guys did the extracurricular. So it's bus drivers, maintenance people, food service people, secretaries. It's all one big thing. And you have to promote it, celebrate successes. At the beginning of each school year, for the last 6 years of my interims, I had a kickoff breakfast for everybody that works in the district. And they're like, even in Stevens Point, there's like 1,200 people out there at the high school bleachers. There's each school, they'd all sit together. And there's the maintenance guys, there's the bus drivers, and here's the board. And I'd have a slideshow behind me, but I recognized them for the contribution that they made. And everybody cheer for everybody else. That's part of leadership. It's a servant job, it's a support job. And it's like a conductor of an orchestra. I use that too. I'm conducting orchestra as superintendent, and I got the woodwinds, and they're the school board, and I've got the teachers over here, and the support staff over here, and the percussion section, and they're all parts of the whole, and there's got to be some harmony there. And it's the conductor's the one kind of keeps it all together. So I feel great about my career. I've done some good work with boards, with teachers, with kids. I have kids that Danny Bennett, fifth grader at Krista, he talks to me on Facebook all the time. Rod Marfelius from Wazika Steuben.
You mentioned so many different people's names within our conversation. You are willing to say, I am standing on the shoulders of other people, and you uplift all of the people on your team. And I find that to be an amazing leadership trait and quality. So thank you for sharing all of your experience with us. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Do you have any closing thoughts or final parting things to say?
I do want to say that the only person that I really should be thanking is my wife. She has been a trooper for all of my moves. We've been married 40 years. If something happens and I'll say, just got this call from the search guy that I knew 20 years ago, and he's got this Stevens Point. They can't decide on a superintendent. And what do you think about moving to Stevens Point? Oh, sure, whatever, So she's just the best. I have the best wife in the whole world, and I really am appreciative of everything she's done. So, Faye, thank you.
It was wonderful to hear more about you and the person that is behind this great leader. So thank you. And thank you for watching this episode of EduCurious. Whether you're a teacher, parent, or just EduCurious, join the community as we explore various educational topics and learn from each other. We'll see you next time.